Tool number one, okay, is Mentimeter. All right, Mentimeter, if you have not used it before, is an online platform enabling educators to conduct interactive polls, quizzes, and gather real-time feedback, fostering enhanced student engagement and participation. There are lots of words in this description which are fantastic for when it comes to formative assessment. Interactive polls, quizzes, real-time feedback, real-time information that you are going to receive from your students for a variety of different formative assessment purposes. So a fantastic tool that you could use in the classroom today. Here is idea number one for Mentimeter. Maybe you are a primary teacher. I am a primary trained teacher. I haven't taught primary school that much. I've done a little tiny bit of it, so I have very little understanding of what it's like to be a primary teacher. But maybe you're a primary teacher and you are teaching science to your students. You could use Mentimeter to create a word cloud. And this just image over here is actually a beautiful example from Mentimeter of a word cloud. So maybe you ask your students, what happens when you heat water? Your students jump onto their devices, whether they are laptops, Chromebooks, whether they are tablets, whatever you are using, and your students then create their response using a word cloud. How cool is that? You get lots of ideas here. You'll also get a lot of information, a lot of variation. What kind of language are your students using to respond to this particular question? Do you need to go back and have a look at this to make sure that your students are using the correct vocabulary and terms when it comes to this particular element of science? So you could use Mentimeter to create a word cloud in science in a primary school. So simple, so quick, okay? It's not going to take up a lot of time, and it provides you with wonderful information and real-time feedback. Another example here, and this is one that leads to my heart as a secondary English teacher. Maybe we're looking at a particular text. Maybe we're looking at, for this particular case, a poem, and we're just going to do a live poll. So we've read a poem, and I've asked my students, what's the mood of this particular poem? We might have some different options, and your students are going to show me what they think the mood of the poem is. And you can kind of look at that and make an assessment and judgment as to whether or not your students have understood the poem, whether you need to reread it, whether you need to find a recording of it on YouTube. But it's going to provide you with some really important information. It might even lead to some discussion. Why do you think this particular mood is represented? And somebody brings up an example or provides an opinion, and you haven't even thought about that. So a really great way to check your under students using Mentimeter if you're an English teacher. And our final example here is not just for the classroom. We could use these formative assessment practices also within our own professional development. So maybe you are working with some colleagues, maybe you're presenting something about educational technology to your colleagues, and you have a slide scale to just, get a general gist of your colleagues' understanding. You might ask them to rate their confidence with using digital tools. This would be really interesting because I believe that you'd probably get a really interesting variety from maybe very low from those people that haven't really embraced EdTech to, people like myself who'd be like, I love technology. I'm very confident with technology. So that might really help you as well as a teacher and to help your colleagues identify what you might be able to work on to support your colleagues. So Mentimeter, a really simple way to conduct polls, quizzes, to get real-time feedback, foster that engagement in your classroom.